It's time now for the Dan Williams Show, brought to you by Witt's Barbecue, by Farmers Insurance Agent Ken Hanna, by Chick-fil-A, and by Jared Hester from Edward Jones. Now here's your host, Dan Williams.
Thank you, Tim. It's another great day in Athens and Limestone County. A little bit cloudy. I'm not sure what the weather's going to do, but I tell you, I'm ready for springtime and setting out my tomato crop and all that. I'm going to try to grow tomatoes this year. I hadn't done too well the last couple of years, but I've got a lot of experts in the studio today. They might can help us with that. But we probably won't get time to talk about tomatoes today. But we want to get right into the program. It's something I think you'll find that's interesting, and it's something that's very important to the state of Alabama. We have three guests from the Alabama Family Rights Association. Kenneth Pascal, who is the Director of Governmental Affairs for that organization, the Alabama Family Rights Association. Mark Davis, who's the Director of Communications and Research. And then we have from Huntsville, family law attorney Dinah Rhodes. We all don't like lawyers. I mean, everybody talks about lawyers and makes jokes and everything, but now I want to tell you, I like this lawyer. Now, the first time I've ever met her, but her name is Dinah, and that's my daughter's name, who's going to have a baby boy in June. So Dinah's a real special name to me, Miss Dinah, and we're glad to have you and all of you here today on our program. And I want to thank all of our sponsors for bringing this program to you, and ask our listening audience to support our sponsors and tell them that you heard about them on the Dan Williams Show. Kenneth, let's start with you. Tell us briefly what the American Family Association, Alabama Family Rights Association is, and sort of what your mission is here.
Okay. Well, first of all, Dan, I definitely want to thank you for having us here today to cover what I believe is one of the most important topics, not only in the state of Alabama, but in our entire country. And the Alabama Family Rights Association, we preserve, promote, and protect family relationships. And our two main interests regarding that is we preserve the relationship of both parents in a child's life. Our desire is to remove government and judicial hindrance in order to safeguard the parent-child relationship. Our organization was formed in 1997, and here it is 2013, and we're still trying to address the same issue. We just want to promote the concept that a child needs both mom and dad, regardless of their marital status.
So the organization is dedicated to trying to make sure that children in Alabama have both parents in their life, both fit parents. Now, this comes into play a lot of times, and that's sort of where the rub comes, maybe in dealing with the courts. But that's a lofty ideal. What's the problem that we can't have both parents involved in a child's life?
Well, sometimes, Dan, if you do wrong over a period of time, it appears right. And I think that's what we sit here today. Our current family law in Alabama, it promotes what it calls standard visitation. And what standard visitation is, during a custody divorce or unwed custody lawsuit, the current law allows our judicial system to limit one parent time with the child. It allows the judicial system to limit our kids to only 4 to 6 days to spend time with one of their parents for no legal reasoning or justification other than it's convenient. We had the opportunity to sit with the Bar Association Task Force last year, and one of the things they shared with us is we have 67 counties in Alabama, and we pretty much only have 4 counties that really is dedicated to domestic relations or divorce or unwed cases, and the other 63 is forced to deal with these situations. So in a way, I think we asking our courts to do something they're not trained to do.
Okay.
And let me jump in if I can. I'm in the trenches trying divorce cases and custody cases a lot, and I graduated from law school in 1986. The custody laws have not been changed for probably 40 years.
Yeah.
And society and parenting has changed a lot in the past 40 years. I was discussing with Mark and Kenneth, that my father's parenting was a lot different, and his generation was a lot different than the fathers of today. And we're just trying to bring these laws up currently to reflect what society and parents are doing today. They're two worker families, and the parents are taking joint responsibilities in the families today. But when they're divorced, we're going back to the 1970s on the laws, and so it really needs to be updated.
Now, you mentioned divorce. Is divorce, to me, this whole situation, divorce seems to be the big thing here that causes most of the problem. Is that true? Am I thinking right? In other words, if we didn't have so much divorce.
Oh, right. Right. Divorce rates are rampant. And, that's a whole nother program on it. Should be a lot harder to get divorced than it is. But that's a whole nother set of issues. But the fact is
there are so many children involved in this because of the divorce rate. Now, I realize there's other children involved that the parents weren't married or whatever. The large portion comes from, I would think, that divorce.
I want to jump in and say something here.
Yeah.
The states in the United States have actually updated their family law to allow both parents to be actively involved in their children's lives, has actually seen the divorce rates go down.
Sure.
And there's statistics on that. I don't have them with me. But when you've got this one parent wins, other parent loses, it provides an incentive to just go divorce with in Alabama there's no fault divorce. You don't even have to explain why you're getting a divorce.
You just sign up.
You just sign up and go do it, and then the children are the one that's losing.
Yeah, and that's a sad situation because I think most cases children like both parents. I mean, there are situations where maybe one parent has been so abusive or something that a child wouldn't want to be with that parent. But I think those cases are extreme. And hopefully few and far between. There may be a few, but most the situations that I personally know about that we're talking about, where families have terrible fights and everything over children, both parents seem to be pretty good folks to me, until they get in that arena.
Well, and this brings up another aspect. Dinah, our organization believes that she is one of the best attorneys in the state.
Yeah.
And I talk to a lot of parents throughout the state, and believe it or not, you'll have two parents that go divorce and they're not really at one another's throats until they go retain attorneys.
Yeah.
And the attorneys say, well, if you got to do this, you've got to do that to protect your legal interest. And then they're at war with one another.
Yeah.
You can't see the kids. You can't do this, you can't do that. And they're at war for the rest of their natural lives. Yeah. And a lot of times it's not that they're bickering with one another. I actually know of 3 people right now that have been involved in the Alabama legal system for more than 10 years. And in the last 6 or 8 months, the 2 parents have gotten together and talking that they haven't done in the last 10 years because the attorneys told them not to.
Yeah.
And then they discovered, well, I did this because my attorney told me to do this, or I didn't know my attorney was doing this. And they're like, now they're mad at the attorneys, and they're actually communicating and working together for the best interest of their children.
Yeah. Well, let's ask the attorney about that. I mean,
certainly
the attorneys.
Thanks, Mark.
And I don't want to accuse attorneys of anything bad, but our attorneys, they're not involved with the child. I mean, when they take a case, I mean, this is their job. And maybe most of them feel like I've got to win for this client regardless of what the situation is otherwise. And I can understand that. I mean, that's what you do. But when there's a child involved, what about that, Dinah? Is that?
Well, that's, I don't want to cast any more aspersions on lawyers than have already been done this morning. So, but certainly my goal is to educate my client about the law and about the consequences of making what choices that parent is going to make about the types of custody that he or she pursues. I can tell you that in my experience in one courtroom in Huntsville, that judge starts with the premise that he's going to award joint custody to the parents unless one of them is unfit. And my experience in that has been that the cases are settled a lot more and a lot quicker because the parents know that if they go to court in that judge's courtroom, they're going to get equal custody. And if they have to work together, they're going to work together. That's been my experience. And that, to me, that judge's courtroom and in his handling of custody has been a successful experiment and has really probably changed my mind just based on what I've seen.
I would think he may have more people standing in line to get in his court than others.
It's chosen randomly, and that's why I think this new joint custody law is so important, because if your case is drawn for that judge, then you have a great chance of getting joint custody.
Okay, we've got a break coming up. We'll be back in just a minute with folks from the Alabama Family Rights Association.